Hello, hello, hello! Good day guys! Kamusta tayong lahat? At welcome na naman sa ating channel at welcome na naman sa panibagong lecture sa profession nating criminology. For today's lecture, we will be covering the topic on police ethics. So before we proceed into our lecture, gusto ko lang din sabihin yung rationalization natin kung bakit natin nasali yung topic na ito sa lecture natin. So basically, ngayon, na-observe na natin, hindi lang sa atin sa criminology profession, kundi sa lahat na rin ng mamamayan ng bansa natin. Yung mga instances na kung saan police officers na babalitaan nating nagko-commit ng crime, na involved sa pagpatay, na involved sa drugs, at kung ano pang mga negative na pwede nating masabing negative conducts na ginagawa ng ating mga kapulisan, na kung saan imbes na sila yung nagpro-protect sa atin laban sa mga ganitong uri ng krimen at kaguluhan, ay sila pa ngayon yung nasasangkot sa mga issues na ganito. So hindi naman sa nila lahat, kasi alam natin at marami tayong kakilala na kung saan mabubuti sila sa pag-perform ng kanilang responsibility as a police officer. So hindi lahat guys ay ganun, pero importante pa rin siguro na mapag-usapan natin yung tinatawag nating police ethics, So ang police ethics na ito guys will talk about the mandates, the expectations among members of the law enforcement organizations, hindi lang sa PNP kundi sa lahat ng law enforcement organization. So that's it. So yun yung pinaka-concept ng pag-uusapan natin today, What are the expectation among law enforcement members or law enforcement agency members, the police officers and the rest of law enforcement agencies in the performance of their duty. Ano ang inaasahan natin, ni Juan de la Cruz bilang isang ordinaryong mamamayan sa ating mga kapulisan. Okay? So, that's it for the small introduction. Let us proceed now to the main topic, which is police ethics. So before we proceed to that, pag-usapan muna natin kung ano yung tinatawag nating ethics. So basically, ethics is simply defined as the morality of man. Okay? So, ang ethics guys is a branch of philosophy which studies the principle of right or wrong. Ang ethics na yan studies what or how we define good behavior and how we define bad behavior. Ang good behavior and bad behavior is a product of social process na tinatawag natin. Ang pagkakaroon natin ng acceptable behavior at unacceptable behavior is a byproduct of the social process, na kung saan lahat tayo sa society, tayo ang nagde-decide kung ano yung pwede nating sabihin katanggap-tanggap na behavior at kung ano yung hindi katanggap-tanggap. And that is basically the concept of ethics. Kasi kung meron tayong tinatawag nating morality, which is also based on the concept of right and wrong when it comes to human behavior and human action as defined or as being assessed by the society. Basta tandaan natin, the society usually label a certain behavior good behavior when it benefits the society, and it labels bad behavior. It labels a certain conduct or a certain action as a bad behavior when it do the contrary. So kung perwisyo ito sa community natin, then basically our society will label that as a bad behavior. So that's the concept on how we come up with good behavior and bad behavior, and that is also the concept of ethics on how a certain society come up with by labeling a certain behavior as good or bad. What are the determinants, kumbaga? So that is the concept of ethics. Now, the question here, the next question here is that how important is ethics, ladies and gentlemen? So basically, meron tayong quotation dito Sabi dito, without moral perception, man is only an animal. Then that is true, di ba? That is true. We are an animal. The only difference is that we are a rational animal. Okay? So, tayo bilang tao, meron tayong kakayahang mag-isip, meron tayong kakayahang mag-rationalize sa mga bagay-bagay bago natin gawin o bago natin bago natin gawin ang isang bagay. That's the difference between animals and human being, because we are all animals, but the problem the difference is that meron tayong awareness and meron tayong rationality. Meron tayong ability na mag-rationalize. Okay? So, and because of this, we also develop the concept of morality. No? We develop the concept of morality. So before we do a certain action, tignan muna natin yung guiding principle natin, whether would that behavior be considered as a normal, or would that behavior be considered as acceptable behavior or unacceptable behavior. No? Bago natin gawin yung isang bagay, iniisip muna natin kung tama ba yung gagawin ko, ito ba ay katanggap-tanggap o ito ay hindi katanggap-tanggap. And because of that, we establish the morality. No? We establish that we as a human being are moral individual. No? Marunong tayong tumingin ng tama at marunong tayong tumingin ng mali. At most of the time, we choose to do what is right and refrain from doing what is wrong. No? So, ang sabi dito, without moral perception, kung hindi natin alam tignan yung masama at mabuti, we are no different from animals. And that is definitely true. You know, animals go by instinct. No? They go by instinct na tinatawag. Their behavior is not really affected by any rationalization, but rather by just, instinct. No? If it's beneficial for them, then they would do it. No? If not, so take this for example, yung mga alaga natin. Like for example, yung aso. No? Kakainin niya lahat ng pagkain na nandyan. Basta nagugutom siya, kakainin niya yan. Regardless if may nagmamay-ari, may ibang hindi sa kanya, hindi niya pinaghirapan or whatsoever. Kasi meron siyang needs. And then, the only way to satisfy that needs is to eat, and that is by instinct. So wala siyang morality na, okay, hindi sasabihin ng alaga natin na hindi ko kakainin to kasi hindi to sa akin. Hindi ko kakainin yan kasi may nagmamay-aring iba dyan. Ganon. So that's our difference. Tayo bilang tao, kahit gutom tayo, hindi tayo kakain basta-basta ng pagkain kung merong nagmamay-aring iba. That's how just we explain the concept of morality and how are we different from animal. And that's very important. Ano? Yung concept ng morality na to is very important for our own existence. Imagine, if you don't have that concept of morality, what will happen? Well, chaotic tayo eh. Na? Ngayon nga lang that we acknowledge that we have the concept of we have the concept of morality, still, there are a lot of war, there are a lot of conflict, there are a lot of killings, violence. No? So, kung alisin pa natin yung concept ng morality sa atin bilang tao, di mas lalo na. No? Baka ang mangyari dito is maubos na lang tayo because of war, because of violence and whatsoever. That is true. Ano? Ngayon pa nga lang that we acknowledge the concept of morality, people will go to war because of territory. People will go to war because of women. People will go to war because of silly things. Na? Kahit mga wala namang kabuluhang bagay o napakasimpleng bagay, pwedeng makipaggera ang isang bansa dahil lang doon. Na? And we even acknowledge the concept of morality, ha? Sa lagay na yan, knowledge pa natin yung concept of morality. Paano na lang kung wala tayong pakialam sa morality na yan? Ano mangyayari? Definitely, mauubos tayo dahil sa gera, dahil sa violence, and many more, hanggang sa maubos na tayo ng tuluyan. So that is how important the concept of ethics is. And that is also the importance of having the morality. Kaya hindi natin pwedeng alisin yung morality sa atin kasi that's one of the reason that we existed. Na? Kaya meron tayong peace and order. That is because we have the respect to morality and we do acknowledge yung tinatawag natin mga moral values and principles natin. Okay? Now, let's jump into our next topic, which is police ethics. Yan. So basically, police ethics talks about the statement of values, principle of conduct, standard of practice of law enforcer in the performance of their duty. No? So pag sinasabi natin police ethics, ito naman yung mga guiding principle, kumbaga, kung paano nga ba yung isang police officer, paano niya dapat gampanan yung pagiging police niya. So not only that, the law enforcement code of ethics or yung police ethics na yan serves as the Bible, kumbaga, on how to become a police or good police officer. I usually tell this to our students. Sabi ko nga, there is no manual for becoming a good police officer, no? Just do your job and just do your job as humanly as possible. No, magpakatao ka lang sa kahit ikaw ay nasa law enforcement field. If you're just going to act as an ordinary individual, no, then definitely that's how you do it. No? Kasi wala namang manual ang pagiging mabuting tao. Just do the things that is considered as good and avoid things that is considered as bad or unacceptable. Then that's also the same with doing your job as a police officer. No? Magpakatao ka lang, marunong ka lang magpakatao, then definitely you will become a good police officer. However, no, for the sake of this discussion, then there is really this sinatawag nating law enforcement code of ethics, which serve as a manual, as a Bible for law enforcers on how they are going to perform their job that will satisfy the community or the society. No? So that's the concept of police ethics. Police ethics is one of the many professional ethics that we have. And hindi lang dito sa law enforcement may ethics na ganito. All of the profession that we know, like for example, lawyers, meron din silang sariling professional ethics. Meron din silang sariling code of ethics. Nurses, doctors, teachers, they all have their own set of, they all have their own code of ethics. So, lahat yan ng profession na alam natin, meron silang Bibliang pinagbabasihan kung paano nila gagawin yung trabaho nila ng katanggap-tanggap sa mamamayan. Okay? Then, let us now proceed to the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics. Kasi kanina pa natin pinag-uusapan yung Law Enforcement Code of Ethics, and definitely, we need to discuss this. So, the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics is divided into 5 paragraphs. I just dissected them into like this. So, we have here paragraph 1, we're talking about service to mankind, ganun. Onwards ko na lang yung based on the paragraph. Anyway, we're going to discuss them one by one later on, no? So I'm just going to introduce you the different parts of the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics, no? So yan, paragraph 1, we will be talking about service to mankind. Paragraph 2, we will be talking about becoming an example to the community. Paragraph 3, we will be talking about yung biases. Paragraph 3, we will be talking about the public trust. And paragraph 4, self-development or self-improvement through excellence. Okay, so let's talk about them one by one. I hope I can dissect them properly. At I do hope na maintindihan nating mabuti ang concept ng mga pinagsasabi dito. Kasi it's very important that this topic should be understood and taken, memorized by heart and learned by heart by you as a student or you as an aspiring future law enforcement officer, or kahit yung mga viewers natin na nasa service na this is very significant, no? Napakahalaga nito na mapag-usapan at ma-review natin ito, baka sakaling mabigyan ulit natin ng buhay yung kanilang mga maprinsipyo, yung kanilang principles during their school days, no? So napakagandang balikan natin yung Law Enforcement Code of Ethics natin. Okay? So let's talk about them. The first paragraph talks about, yan, sabi niya dito, as a law enforcement officer, may fundamental duties to serve mankind. This sentence alone is very, very important. No? Ano yung motto ng police officer? To serve and to protect. Okay. So the fundamental duty, no, ang pinaka mahalagang duty or pinaka basic na duty ng isang law enforcement officer is to serve mankind. Yung word na serve, napakabigat niyan. Serve, service, no? Demanding ang trabaho ng law enforcement officer, no, ng mga law enforcement officer. Bakit? Kasi sabi dito, to serve, no? Ibig sabihin, you will dedicate your entire life as long as you are a police officer to serving the community. Yung mankind na yan is the community. No? And yung service na yan has no exemption. Like for example, pwede mo sabihin, pwede mo bang sabihin that if I'm no longer in duty, then I don't need to serve everyone. No. Selfless, this mandates selflessness, ano? Alisin mo na yung pag-iisip na anong mapapala ko kung ginawa ko ito. Ano yung mapupunta sa akin pag ginawa ko to. Alisin mo na yun. Whenever you enter, no? When you entered the field or the profession of law enforcement, you are already a slave of the community in terms of serving them and protecting them against any form of violence. Ang bigat, no? Napakabigat ng mandate niyan. Kailangan mong alisin na yung personal interest mo and you dedicate yourself and time in serving the community and serving in maintaining peace and order for the community. Yan yung service na tinatawag natin. Selfless service na yan. Huwag mo nang isipin kung may mapapala ba ako dito kung ginawa ko to. Like for example, si Police Officer Pedro, no? Pauwi na sa kanyang bahay, kagagaling sa duty, pagod na pagod na. Ngayon meron siyang nadaanan na isang tao na inaabuso. Do you think it is just right and proper na mag-stop siya at tulungan yung taong yan? Tutulungan niya yung taong yan. No? Yan yung pwedeng maging tanong eh. Paano kung sa iyo nangyari yan? Like for example, ikaw, police officer ka, straight duty ka, ngayong pauwi ka na, meron kang nadaanan na nangangailangan ng tulong, titigil ka ba para tulungan sila? Or tama lang na dumiretso ka na kasi tapos ka naman na mag-duty? So, since we're talking about selfless service, then definitely the police officer in that circumstances is expected, no, to render service despite the circumstances, despite the situation that he is in, no, currently in. So kung pagod na siya, sige, na konti na lang, he need to serve that. Yan yung expectation kasi sa mga police officer, that they are always ready to render service whenever needed. Yan. Okay? And then it says there, the second sentence there, sabi dyan, to safeguard life and property. Ano, napakabigat din yan. To safeguard life and property. The problem here is that it does not mention kung kaninong life. Lahat dyan in general. So kahit mahirap, mayaman, na may pinag-aralan or wala, basta kailangan niya ng proteksyon, kailangan mong pagsilbihan at kailangan mong protektahan ang buhay ng taong yan. That's the essence of police service. No? Now, as we notice right now, ano, dami-dami na nga, sabi ko nga, dami-dami nang nai-involve na police sa patayan. Ang dami-dami nang nai-involve na police sa torture and whatsoever. Those are not living through the expectation of the community to them. Ano? Kasi the expectation of the community to them is they will be the protector of life. Na? Tagapagtanggol dapat sila. They value life more than anyone else. No? So, kapag ikaw ay pumatay, definitely you are no longer performing in accordance to your code of ethics. Kasi sabi dyan, protect lives and property. Protect life and property. If you kill a person, you're not protecting life. No? You're destroying life. Paano kung criminal niya? Even, remember, being a police officer is not a license to kill, no? So whatever the reason is, it's wrong for a certain person, even if he is a police officer, to kill a certain person, be it a criminal or not. Except doon na lang sa yung mga papasok na doon sa exempting circumstances natin under criminal law. But basically, in general, bawal or hindi dapat pumapatay ang isang police in whatever circumstances that is. Unless papasok siya sa exempting circumstances, sabi ko nga doon sa ating criminal law. No? Sabi pa dyan, to protect the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation, the peaceful against violence or disorder, and to respect the constitutional rights of all men. Ito na nga yung sinasabi ko. Why it is that it is wrong to kill a certain person even if he is a criminal. Bakit mali ang pumatay ng isang tao kahit siya isang criminal? Why? Because under the Philippine Constitution, or even our inherent right, no, we have the right to life. Meron tayong karapatang mabuhay, no? Karapatang mapahalagahan ng ating buhay as written in our Constitution. And not only that, it's an inherent right. Pagkapanganak mo, karapatan mo na yan. Now, if you kill a certain person, then definitely that is a violation of his constitutional rights to live. That's why minsan lumalabas dito yung yung issues on human rights. Sabi ko nga, in whatever circumstances it is, it's wrong to kill a certain person because all of us has the right to live, no? Unless that would be qualified under exempting circumstances. Now, sa lahat ng constitutional rights natin, pinaka gusto kong i-point out is yung right to life. Second na dyan, yung mga right against torture, no? Hindi mo dapat torturein yung isang tao kasi may karapatan siya, may protection siya against that. And, di ba, under our constitutional rights, we have the rights to be presumed innocent. So, hindi ibig sabihin na kapag ikaw ay criminal, matik na dapat ikaw ay patay na. No. No? We have the right against we have the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. And even after being proven guilty, our constitutional rights does not require that they should be put into death. We don't have that penalty right now. Kaya nga, yan yung minsan mahirap para sa mga police officer kasi they don't know how they will be able to best perform their duty in terms of these issues. No? Meron ding instances wherein the life of a police officer is in danger. That's why he will be justified in his action if ever somebody will be killed. Or that would fall under the justification of self-defense against a stranger. And yun yung mga pwedeng instances. Pero, karamihan, no, unjustifiable yung pagkakamatay ng isang tao. Like for example, isang drug addict napatay during an operation. That would be justified if yung sasabing nanlaban and there is a risk between the life of the police officer, pwedeng at risk, or a civilian, that's naunahan lang. So, yun na yung sa batas natin. No? But then, under the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics, it does not mention any exemption. No? Sa batas natin may exemption. But then, here, na it's not stated therein. We really should respect life, constitutional rights of all individual, no? All men. We should also respect their liberty, equality, and justice by all means. Okay? So, I know this topic is very much controversial. Me, myself, had been in a lot of argument already with regards to this. If tama ba yung pagkaka-interpret natin ng Code of Ethics. So, it's always been a controversial issues in the field of law enforcement to talk about this. You But then, if you want, if you do not agree with how I interpret this Code of Ethics, feel free to comment those down in the comment section and I will try to hear your suggestion, hear your opinion with regards to this. Okay, so let us proceed to the next paragraph wherein be an exemplar to the society. What does it mean? if you're a police officer, all eyes are being directed towards you. Totoo yan. No? Pag police ka, ang daming matang nakatingin sa'yo. Anong tinitignan nila? Lifestyle. Anong tinitignan nila? Whether you are living according to your mandates. Di ba ang law enforcement officer, tagapagpatupad ng batas. So, tinitignan nila dyan kung ikaw ba na tagapagpatupad ng batas, ikaw ba na nagpapatupad ng batas ay sumusunod din sa mga pinapatupad mo. That is why, sabi dito sa first sentence, I will keep my private life unsullied as an example to all. So, bilang isang pulis, dapat ikaw mismo ang magpakita sa tao kung paano maging isang law-abiding citizen. No? Kahit pribadong buhay mo na yan. It does not mean kasi that if you remove your uniform, if you go out of your duty, pag nag-out ka na sa duty mo, you are no longer police. No. You will remain as a police officer regardless if you're on vacation, on leave, on duty, or other instances that you are not in active duty. As long as you are still a police officer, regardless if you are out of your duty already, regardless if you are sleeping late at night already, you will still become a police officer. Kaya nga, hindi pwedeng sabi, inalis ko na yung uniform ko, nag-off duty na ako, pwede na ako magsugal, pwede na ako mag-inom, pwede na ako magbabay, and whatsoever. That's wrong. No? Pulis ka pa rin kahit wala ka sa duty, kahit wala kang suot na uniform. That's why keep your private life. Sabi niya keep your private life, not your official life, kasi expected din official life mo na kapag ikaw ay nasa official duty, you should make yourself presentable and admirable and a law-abiding citizen as always, because people will look upon you. Now, kapag ikaw ay kapag ikaw ay off duty na, are you excused to maybe drink some alcohol or whatsoever? Pwede kaya yun? Mali yun. Kasi sabi ko nga, kahit wala ka na sa duty, pulis ka pa rin sa tingin ng tao. Ngayon, kung meron kang ginawang kalokohan during that time, during that private moment, you will be judged. Not only you, the entire organization will be judged negatively. So let's say for example, si Police Officer Pedro, pagkatapos niyang nag-duty, gusto niyang mag-relax, tinanggal niya yung uniform niya, nagsuot siya ng pang-civilian na clothes, pumunta sa inuman, gusto niyang mag-happy-happy, mag-banjing-banjing man lang para ma-relax yung kanyang sarili. Nakita siya ng mga tao sa beer house, anong iisipin nila? Yan ang mga pulis, chick boy, lasenggo, o kung ano pa, na negative label na pwede na lang i-label. At ang masakit, ang mahirap nga dyan is, hindi lang siya. Di ba? Sasabihin nila, lahat ng kapulisan ganyan. That's why, even if you are already on your private moment, private life, remember that you are still a police officer in the eye of the community. That is why all your actions are being judged according to your profession. Kaya, you should keep yourself unsullied. Huwag mong mantsahan kahit yung private life mo, kasi huhusgahan ka ng mga tao pag ikaw ay nagkamali kahit naka-uniforme ka o hindi. That's the essence of that. Sobrang hirap, Ewan ko, sobrang hirap talaga. Sobrang bigat ng mandate ng profession na yan sa mga member nila. Next sentence we have here, to maintain courageous, calm in the face of danger, scorn or ridicule. Mabigat din yan. Dito ang pinag-uusapan natin yung tinatawag nating maximum tolerance. Ano ba yung maximum tolerance? Yung kahit lait-laitin ka na, kahit ang baba na ng tingin nila sa'yo, you should always remain calm as possible and maintain your composure. Kasi kung ikaw ay nawala sa control, sino ang mapapasama? Ikaw pa rin, no? Hindi pwedeng maging excuse kasi dito yung sinasabing, well, tao lang din kami, no? Yung mga pulis na yan, tao lang din, kaya pwede rin silang magkamali. That is not an excuse. If you are a police officer, that is not an excuse. Okay? Bakit mas mataas ang standard nila para sa inyo, para sa mga nasa law enforcement agencies? Because they sworn to uphold all of this expectation. Remember, hindi ka pinilit na magsilbi sa bayan bilang isang pulis. You must remember that you applied for it. Ibig sabihin, gusto mong gawin yan. And that is also why, no, nandyan ka, tinanggap ka dyan, at knowing na ito yung mga expectation, tinanggap mo pa rin. That's why you should uphold. Plus, no, you are expected to have that ability to maintain composure despite facing those circumstances, kasi they expected that you prepared yourself into those mental or psychological torture that you will be receiving while you are on duty. Kaya hindi pwedeng sabihin na syempre inasar-asar siya kaya siya nagwala. Syempre nabastos siya kaya siya nagwala. That's not really an excuse. Me myself do not believe that is an excuse. No? You trained for it. You are programmed for that. No? You are doctrinated for it in order for you to be able to withhold those pressures of the job and pressures of becoming a law enforcement officer. No? Another thing, no? Yes, there are a lot of instances already na si police officer nasabihan lang ng ganito, nasabihan lang ng negative words, nasabihan, nakantsawan lang yung kanyang pagiging police, nakantsawan lang yung kanyang pride. Wala na, bumunot na ng baril, nagpaputok na ng baril, nakapatay na ng tao. That's wrong. That's definitely unacceptable behavior in the police force, no? Kaya nasisira minsan ang kapulisan dahil sa mga pulis na mga ganun, no? Another thing, sabi diyan, maintain courageous calm in the face of danger. Yan, isa pa yan, guys. There are videos before, there are different police officers before na kung saan inambahan, nataranta, nagbunot ng baril, pinaputukan. May nandeklara ng hold up, imbes na siya ang rumisponde, hindi, nagtago pa siya, no? So itong mga instances na mga ganito, guys, ito yung mga unacceptable behavior sa law enforcement field, no? Hindi ito katanggap-tanggap. Bilang isang police officer, sanay ang mga tao na i-expect sa'yo na ikaw bilang isang police officer, handa mong isugal ang buhay mo whenever there is a problem, whenever there is a situation wherein police assistance is needed, no? Ina-expect yan ng community na ikaw bilang isang police officer, you are 100% very much willing to devote your life, no, to give up your life for the sake of protecting the community, no? Pero pag ikaw, no, hindi mo ginawa yon, instead na ikaw rumisponde, nagtago ka pa, natakot ka, nagtago ka, hindi mo pwedeng sabihin, tao lang. No, hindi mo pwedeng sabihin, nataranta lang ako. Hindi mo pwedeng sabihin, natakot lang ako, normal lang yun sa isang tao. As I've stated, no, the community do not accept that reasoning. The community expects you to be able to face those danger courageously, and they're expecting you to, give up your life for the protection of the community and so on. So ganun kataas ang expectation ng community para sa mga kapulisan natin, and that is why they are not accepting excuses such as tao lang, no? And as I've stated, you applied for that, you want that job, then live up according to the expectation of the community, and you must perform your duty as expected by the community. As I've stated, you are a servant of the people. So what the people wants you to have, what the people wants or expect from you, you should deliver since you are a public servant. Okay? Another thing that was mentioned in this paragraph is the secrecy discipline. Meron tayong tinatawag na secrecy discipline eh. No? So sabi dito, whatever I see or hear of a confidential nature or that is confided to me in my official duty or official capacity will be kept ever secret unless revelation is necessary. That is true. No? As a police officer, whatever information that are being divulged to you on your official capacity, hindi mo dapat sinasabi or binabanggit yun sa iba unless it's a legal authority, it's an person no is authorized to hear those information. Now, meron kasi mga iba na kung saan like for example, ay pag galing investigator siya, o di kaya desk officer siya, may nagreklamo doon, nakakilala nila, tapos pag uwi niya, ikukwento niya sa kanyang pamilya yung mga nangyari, like for example, ay sa ganito ginahasan ni ganun, pumunta sila kanina, ako yung nag-entertain. Those are wrong, no? Mali yun. Bilang isang police officer, dapat meron kang separation of confidential information to your, private information that you have. Kahit kamag-anak mo pagkwentuhan mo, kahit asawa mo, anak mo pagkwentuhan mo, hindi dapat yun tama. Hindi tama yun. Kasi there are tendencies na syempre, si Mrs. May kakwento niya rin sa mga kumare niya, chismis na nila, no? There are even instances na ganito ang nangyari, no? Yung asawa niya nagpaalam kasi ganito, alis, hindi ako uwi ng 2 araw. We will be conducting an operation, may raid kami na ganito doon sa lugar na ganyan. Si Mrs. naman, chinismis sa kanyang mga kumare na yung mister niya magre-raid daw sa ganito, pupunta daw sa ganito, i-raid yung ganito, ganyan. Ngayon, na-chismis, nalaman ng kalaban, bulilyaso ang operation. That can happen, no? Hindi lang yan made up story. That happens already. That can happen too if hindi na-maintain yung confidentiality of the information, especially for police officer. Kaya, bawal definitely ang chismoso at chismosa sa police force. Okay? So, those are the things under paragraph 2. Let's move to paragraph 3. Paragraph 3 talk about biases. Anong nakalagay dito? First sentence, I will never act officiously. Or, let's talk about that. What's officiously? Ano yung ibig sabihin ng officiously? Officiously means you're over-conscious of your authority. You are looking at yourself and you see that you are very much entitled of everything, ano? Meron kasi yung mga ibang police na kung saan is they look at themselves as a very important individual, no? Ang tingin nila sa sarili nila is VIP. Ang tingin nila sa sarili nila is dapat lagi nabibigyan ng consideration. Dapat lagi nabibigyan special treatment, special attention. Like for example, kakain, dapat binibigyan siyang special treatment. Sasakay sa pampublikong sasakyan, bibigyan ng special treatment. Makikipila, bibigyan ng special treatment, and so on. Those should not be the case, ano? Even if you are not asking for it and it's given voluntarily to you, you should not accept it. Kasi as a police officer, as I've stated, as a police officer, you are the servant of the people and you should not let yourself be served by the people to whom you should be serving. No? Hindi dapat ganun ang mangyari. Yan yung isa sa pinaka nangyayari ngayon na na-observe natin. In our eyes, as an ordinary individual, as a civilian, of course, we notice these things that are happening, ano, na kung saan is, kumbaga, yung ibang law enforcement officer nagpapa special treatment. I don't know if that's required for them or is it really the yun ba yung nakagawian para sa kanila? I remember some issues before, ano, why are the other members of the different department of the government are not given the same special treatment as they're being given to the police officers. I don't know the reason for that. And I don't want to justify the police officer nor justify the claim of the other department. But basta, ang point ko lang dito is you should not let yourself as a police officer to be given special treatment since you are a public servant and you are not the boss of the people. For that's the statement, first sentence. Let's move to the second statement. Sabi dyan, never permit personal feelings, prejudices, animosities, or friendship to influence your decision. That's true. Na? Yung mga biases na ganito, porket kaaway mo si Pedro, kaya pinag-initan mo na, hinuli mo kahit wala naman siyang kasalanan, or hindi kaya dahil kaibigan mo yung nasasangkot, binigyan mo na ng special treatment, ang sinampahan mo pa ng kaso, yung kanyang nakaalitan. Instances like that. No? Kung may kakilala kang pulis, may matatakbuhan ka, pwede kanyang saluhin, kahit ikaw ang may kasalanan. Yan yung mga minsan nagiging source of corruption. Yan yung minsan nagiging source ng misconduct of the police officer dahil they are giving favor to those people that they know and they're involving their personal feelings dahil nabastos siya ng isang tao na yan kaya hindi niya binigyan ng tamang serbisyo, hindi niya pinansin or hindi niya tinulungan yung isang tao na yan kasi may history na sila ng alitan and whatsoever. Those things must be avoided. Ano? Bilang isang police officer, hindi mo dapat gawin yan. Kasi in terms of morality and values, mas mataas ang standard na nire-require nila sa mga police officer. Dapat, yung kasabihan nga natin na nasa Filipino, walang kamakamag-anak, walang kaibigan, walang kakilala, na trabaho lang. Yun dapat ang gawin ng isang police officer. They should avoid involving their personal feelings or biases in mind in the performance of their duty. Na wag nilang isali yun. Okay? And then we have here, sabi dito, enforce the law courteously. That's true. When you are enforcing the law, you must be courteous. It does not mean that if a certain individual had violated the law, he is no longer a human being and he deserved no treatment or he deserved no humanistic treatment. That's wrong. No? Kahit ang isang tao nag-violate, merong na-violate yan. At the end of the day, tao pa rin yan and he still deserved to be treated as human being. No? That's why, no, no unnecessary force or violence should be applied. No? I noticed this. No? I noticed this. We personally have witnessed already yung mga, halimbawa yung lasing na nagwawala, pinuntahan ng police officer, sinuntok, binugbog, and of course that is a violation of these rights. No? So, ibig sabihin, kahit ang isang tao may nagawa ng mali, ay hindi niya pa rin deserve na matreat ng inhumane. Hindi niya pa rin ma-deserve na mabigyan ng, yung mga torture, things like that, because he's still a human being. And remember, sabi ko nga, even if he committed a crime, remember that he is always presumed innocent until proven guilty. And we do not go with that barbaric treatment. And remember that we are in a rehabilitation principle. Whenever a certain person committed a crime, we must look into a way on how we're going to reintegrate him through rehabilitation process to the community. Yun yung tinitignan natin. Hindi torture, hindi violence, hindi killing and whatsoever. Okay? Another thing that you must take into consideration big time is never accept gratuities in return. No? So when you are performing your duty as a police officer, never accept gratuities. Huwag kang tumanggap ng kahit anumang uri ng pasasalamat, whether that's in cash or in kind, in treatment or in favor. Never accept, because that's the start of corruption. Meron tayong isang scenario. For example, police officer Pedro is patrolling in his area of responsibility, no? And he happens na natuwa sa kanya yung mga vendor, like yung nagtitinda ng banana Q, in-offeran siya ng libreng banana Q. Sir, sa'yo na to kasi pasasalamat namin at lagi kang nandito, binabantayan, nagpapatrol sa amin at walang nagnanakaw dito sa amin. Now, the question is it moral as a police officer to accept the banana Q or not? Based on the law enforcement code of ethics, definitely it's not. It's not moral. Regardless of the intention ng nagbibigay, kung siya ay talagang honest lang, siya ay very thankful lang na magbigay nun, regardless of the intention of the one who is giving the favor, you should not accept it. Banana Q lang yan. You can buy that. So kung gusto mong tanggapin, bigyan mo siyang bayad. Ganun lang. So, ang iniiwasan kasi dito is the concept of corruption. Pwedeng mangyari kasi, maging paulit-ulit yung mangyayari na yan. No? Wala na. That is already the birth of the corruption. Yan yung start ng corruption natin tinatawag. That's why, yung mga simple na ganyan, simple or big time reward or token of appreciation should not be entertained by police officers. They should never entertain those kasi hindi natin alam kung anong mangyayari after that. Okay? So, never accept any gratuities in return. Just do your job and never expect or request any token in return. No? Remember, you are the servant of the people. I think that's the key word that I want to inculcate to everyone. No? As a police officer, you must always remember that you are the servant of the people. No? Servant of the people. So whenever you do something, kung meron kang gustong gawin, isipin mo muna, is this considered as serving the people? If not, then definitely don't do it. Next paragraph here, we have the number 4, yung tinatawag nating public trust. What does it mean by this paragraph here? Sabi dito kasi, I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of public faith and I accept it as a symbol or as a public trust. Now, police officer has that badge na tinatawag, yung badge na yan. Ngayon, what does it symbolizes? Ano ang sinisimbolo ng badge na yan? It symbolizes yung public faith. Ibig sabihin, may paniniwala sa iyo ang community. They have their belief in you as a police officer. That's why you are given the authority by the community, by the society to enforce the law in their behalf. So if you have that, you are holding public trust. Ibig sabihin, hawak-hawak mo ang tiwala ng mga mamamayan. That's why in return, whenever a police officer requires something to the community, to a certain individual, we as a member of the society must obey. Dapat sundin natin. Kasi, hindi sila kumbaga yung nag-uutos bilang isang police, kundi yung buong community na kanilang nire-represent. Kasi yung hawak nilang badge na yan, that represent the society, that represent the community. Siya, bilang isang police, ay isa lang instrumento ng community kung saan para i-enforce kung ano man yung napagkasunduan natin na dapat ipa-enforce. That's why we should obey because they have the authority over us in terms of law enforcement. So kung sabi niya, bumaba ka muna sa kotse mo, i-check lang namin yan as long as they have the specific warrant, as long as they are in proper circumstances, we must obey and we must respect them because they symbolizes the public trust. They symbolizes the public. They themselves as a police officer symbolizes the public and the public faith in terms of law enforcement and peace and order. Ang laki, ang taas ng authority ng police officer. Of course, ang kapalit naman yan is a great responsibility. Sabi nga doon si Spider-Man, every power comes a great responsibility. And that is indeed true to the law enforcement agencies. Since you have the power over the people in terms of law enforcement, then kalakip naman yan yung responsibilidad nila. At yun nga yung mga nakasabi dito sa ating Law Enforcement Code of Ethics, no? Like for example, selfless service, no? Na kahit for example ay hating gabi na, no, may nangangailangan ng tulong mo, kailangan mong lumabas at magsilbi sa bayan. Ang kapalit naman yan is the authority. That's why we, as a member of the society or the community, should also pay respect to them when they are performing their duty. Yun yung dapat mangyari, no? It's a give and take relationship. We should work harmoniously as a member of the community and the member of the law enforcement in order to keep the peace and order, in order to maintain the peace and order of our society. Okay? So that is with regards to public trust and public faith, no? Sabi din dito, you must uphold public trust. Since may tiwala sa iyo ang society, dapat ma-maintain mo rin at gawin mo lahat ng makakaya mo para mapatunayan na ikaw ay karapat-dapat na pagkatiwalaan ng society. And how can you do that? Of course, by not engaging into corruption, bribery, by not involving into any other illegal acts. Kasi once na nakikita ng community na ikaw ay gumagawa din ng mga pinagbabawal, definitely the effect will be mawawalan ng tiwala ang community sa iyo. That's why sometimes they are no longer respecting the law enforcement officer, no? Yan yung drawback. Kasi nga sabi ko, they should both law enforcement agencies and the community should work harmoniously. Ngayon, kung mapang-abuso ang police, na definitely hindi makikipagtulungan ang ating community. And pag hindi nakipagtulungan ang community, wala na. The relationship between the community and the police is already tainted. Definitely, it has a negative effect to the community wherein pwedeng tataas ang criminality rate, pwedeng mawalan na ng respeto ang member of the community sa mga police. That's why they don't cooperate, kaya wala nang nagagawa ang kapulisan. And sometimes they're being criticized every now and then, and that would demoralize the entire organization. That happens already, ano? If you can see, that's why biglang nagpalit ang change ng PCINP to PNP because they lose faith already on the PCINP, no? Nawalan na ang society ng tiwala sa PC, and that is why it was abolished and refined or re-established as a PNP. That can happen again if tuluyan nang mawala ang tiwala ng community sa PNP organization. That's why, sabi nga, you should uphold public trust. No? You should uphold the faith that the public had given to you by being a good police officer. Okay, so now let's move into our last paragraph. Ano? I hope you're still listening and I hope you're still learning. Now, if you're learning, click nyo yung like button naman dyan para alam natin, or comment kayo sa baba. Let's jump into the last topic that we have. We have here, I termed it keep growing. Why keep growing? Kasi we're talking about here about personal development as a police officer. As a police officer, you should keep evolving and evolving. Ano? Crime is dynamic. That's true. In the field of criminology, we always talk about crime being a dynamic problem. So nagbabago yan, nag-evolve yan. That's the same reason that a police officer should also be dynamic in terms of learning, in terms of training, in terms of competency, no? Kaya dapat when there are trainings, there are seminars, there are learning opportunities, a police officer must always be willing to learn and adapt and engage into these different programs kasi kailangan yan, no? We're progressing as a society. That's why the law enforcement organization must also adhere to that changes in terms of progress, and they should also keep in evolving, no? Pa-evolve din sila ng pa-evolve. Kaya kung meron mga chances, like for example, their trainings and so on, dapat maki-involve ang mga kapulisan natin dyan. And lastly, all of this must be dedicated. All of the things that you're doing as a police officer must be in dedication to God Almighty and to the field wherein you ought to serve, to the field of law enforcement. No? So basically, that's how we interpret the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics. I do hope you learned something from this lecture. If you have comments, violent reactions, or any suggestion with regards to the things that we discussed, don't hesitate to comment those down on the comment section, and I will try to respond to you as soon as possible. Okay, so that's it for this lecture. Thank you for listening. See you on the next lecture. Bye bye.